The sleek silver hull of the intergalactic cruise liner Humdinger drifted into high orbit around the small blue-green planet its crew knew as Earth. Captain Zarlox's gravelly voice echoed through the ship's speakers, announcing that they would be making a scheduled stopover to take on supplies and conduct minor repairs. This mundane news would normally be met with groans from the 600 passengers eager to reach their next exotic destination. But this particular stopover was different. It meant a rare chance to actually visit the planet's surface. Earth was considered an intriguing curiosity by spacefarers, who knew its dominant species, humans, as cagey, erratic creatures capable of both soaring heights of achievement and shocking brutality. Most of the galaxy's sapient races had come to an unspoken agreement to quarantine Earth, fearful that humans' violent tendencies and advanced technologies could be disastrous if unleashed on the wider universe before they had evolved beyond their volatile nature. But for the thrill-seeking sightseers aboard the Humdinger, the danger and mystery surrounding Earth only enhanced its forbidden allure. As soon as Zarlox announced the stopover, the ship's message boards lit up with speculative chatter about Earth's indigenous tribes, climates, cuisine, and more. The cruiser line had arranged for limited shore leave permits to allow small groups of passengers a closely supervised surface excursion. It was sure to be the highlight of their trip. Mip, an excitable young Zendorian making his first solo voyage off-planet, could barely contain his anticipation. He had devoured every snippet of information on humans he could find back home, including ancient legends of their reality-bending abilities. Many such stories were likely exaggerated, but Mip dreamed of witnessing genuine human magic with his own bulbous green eyes. Mip's traveling companion, however, was far less enthused. Clax, an aging Alconian scholar, had agreed somewhat reluctantly to accompany the youth on this voyage as a favor to Mip's family, who feared for the boy's safety. Clax found space tourism frivolous, and humans completely uninteresting despite their mythology. He saw them as underdeveloped, provincial simpletons. But he knew Mip would be heartbroken if denied a chance to finally encounter them in person, so he had secured them both spots on one of the landing parties. As the shuttle prepared for departure, Mip bubbled over with enthusiasm, while Clax responded with non-committal grunts. "Do you think we'll actually see a magic show?" Mip gasped. "I've always wanted to see Earth illusions. What if levitation is real?" Clax dismissed this with a wave of his claw. "Nonsense. Their tricks are all smoke and mirrors. Nothing miraculous about these humans." But his cynicism failed to diminish Mip's overflowing excitement. The young explorer practically vibrated in his harness as the shuttle headed planetside, determined to wring every ounce of awe and magic from what he was certain would be the adventure of a lifetime. The shuttle touched down in a nearly abandoned lot on the outskirts of Las Vegas. Mip pressed against the window, oohing and eyeing at the dusty desert landscape so different from his own lush rainforest home. He swapped his universal translator to the proper local language, English. Their tour guide, a pale human named Marcia, welcomed them warmly. "Hello, intergalactic friends. We're so pleased to host you here on Earth. I'll be your guide to our magic capital, Las Vegas." Mip pepped up at the mention of magic. "Ooh, will we see levitation? Teleportation?" Marcia chuckled. "I can't promise anything that fantastical, but prepare to be amazed." The group excitedly followed her from the lot to a busy neon-drenched street. Loud music and chattering voices spilled from brightly lit casinos. Strange vehicles honked down litter-strewn roads. The sensory assault fascinated Mip, but quickly overwhelmed elderly Clax, who found humans rather disgusting. They soon arrived at their destination, a towering domed building with Argon's astounding illusions emblazoned on its facade. Marcia led them through a grand gilded lobby and into a massive performance space. Thousands of plush red seats faced an enormous curtained stage. As the lights dimmed, upbeat human music blasted through powerful speakers, making Mip jitter in his seat with anticipation. With a shower of pyrotechnics, a lone figure strutted on stage, arms raised theatrically. He wore a dazzling white suit with rhinestone lapels that glittered under the stage lights. Welcome, visitors from beyond, to the magic capital of Earth. I'm the incredible Alazar, master illusionist, and your human host. Prepare to enter a realm where the impossible becomes possible. Mip sat utterly transfixed as Alazar launched into a series of breathtaking tricks. He made fiery bursts erupt from his empty hands. Doves and rabbits emerged from nowhere in puffs of smoke. Playing cards fluttered and flowed through the air, subject entirely to Alazar's mental commands. Each illusion was smoothly executed, flowing seamlessly into the next. Mip's eyes shone with delight. He glanced periodically at the older aliens around him, thrilled to see his own awe mirrored on their faces. Even grumpy Clax stared at the stage with eyebrows raised, seemingly impressed despite his reservations. The show reached its crescendo when Alazar announced he would make someone from the audience disappear. Mip's hand instantly shot up, waving frantically. With a nod from Alazar, the young alien scurried on stage, heart pounding. The magician whispered, "Stay very still and leave the rest to me." Mip nodded, barely able to contain his bubbling excitement. What had he gotten himself into? Alazar wheeled out an upright box just big enough for a person. With drum rolls pounding, he slowly pushed Mip into the box, showing the audience that nothing else was inside. He closed the door, said some magic words, then opened the box to reveal empty space. Mip had vanished. The audience gasped and broke into ecstatic applause. Mip reappeared from behind a curtain, beaming and taking an exuberant bow. The magic had been in his imagination, but Mip had never felt more wonderful in his life. Still buzzing from the magic show, Mip bubbled with questions during the shuttle ride back to the humdinger. "How do you think he did those tricks?" Mip asked Clax eagerly. "Some kind of anti-gravity technology? A psychic illusion projector?" Clax harumphed. "It was all staged. Hidden trapdoors and wires, most likely." Mip waved a hand. "Oh, don't be so boring. There's got to be more to it." The other aliens chimed in with their own theories. "Humans must have some innate psychic gifts to manipulate matter and energy. Did you see how he made fire shoot from his bare hands? Must be nanotech implants or something." As the speculation grew more fanciful, Clax shook his head but kept silent. He didn't want to dampen the wonder sparkling in young Mip's eyes. Back aboard the humdinger, Mip recounted the magic show to the ship's crew and anyone else who would listen. Each retelling grew more hyperbolic and extravagant. The magician levitated 20 feet in the air and breathed fire like a dragon. Then he vanished someone from the audience. Poof, gone completely. The rapt aliens oohed and awed, hungry for every morsel of Mip's experience. Many regretted not going planetside themselves. Over the next few days, the magic show dominated conversation everywhere on the ship. It was clear humans had abilities beyond anything the aliens could comprehend. Perhaps Earth's mysticism and magic were real after all? One evening in the dining hall, Mip overheard hushed voices at a nearby table. He recognized Clack speaking in a low grumble. "It was all staged, I tell you. No such thing as real magic." Captain Zarlox answered gently, "I know, Clax. But did you see how much joy it brought everyone? The renewed spirit of wonder?" Clax hesitated. "Well, I admit it was masterfully done. The skills to pull off such convincing illusions? Sometimes belief and imagination are their own magic." Zarlox replied wisely. Clax mulled this over silently. Mip continued eavesdropping with a grin. Later, Mip decides to visit Clax's quarters. The old scholar opens his door looking weary. "Clax, I have a proposal." Mip's eyes twinkled with mischief. "How about you take magic lessons from me? I can teach you everything I learned from the great Alazar." Clax raised his eyebrows in amusement. "Oh? And what miracles can you show me?" Mip rubbed his hands together. "I will walk through walls, escape from ropes and chains, read minds." He scurried around the room, dramatically waving his hands in mystical passes and chanting magic words. Clax couldn't help but chuckle watching the boy's antics. "And for my final feat of magic?" Mip grabbed a sheet and tossed it over his own head, ducking down. I will vanish completely. Mip stayed hidden under the sheet. Clax frowned. Mip? No response. Clax stood and lifted the sheet to find nothing underneath. He froze in shock. The closet door creaked open and Mip tumbled out, laughing hysterically. You should see your face, Mip cried. Clax laughed too, the most carefree sound Mip had heard from the sober scholar their entire trip. He smiled proudly at his handiwork. In the days following Mip's magic show, an air of whimsy and speculation permeated the ship. Crew and passengers alike were caught up in debating the mystifying tricks they'd witnessed planetside. In the dining hall, Mip sat with a group of friends, all still dissecting theories. I'm telling you, the magician clearly had psychic abilities, said an enthusiastic Pascalian. How else could he read minds and move objects without touching them? No, they must have some kind of extremely advanced technology, argued a Taldorian physicist. Harnessing quantum effects we don't understand. Mip listened eagerly, not really caring how the illusions were achieved. To him, it had felt like real magic, and that was enough. He noticed Clax sitting alone, eating in pensive silence. Mip bounded over. So, what do you think, Clax? How did he do it? Clax regarded him thoughtfully. Does it matter, Mip? What matters is how it made you feel. Mip blinked in surprise. This was uncharacteristically philosophical for the pragmatic Clax. Well, it did feel like magic, Mip replied. It reminded me the universe still has so much wonder to discover. Clax nodded. That's important. Don't lose that sense of marvel, whatever you come across in this great wide cosmos. Mip smiled, warmed by Clax's rare sentimental turn. Their conversation was interrupted by an announcement from Captain Zarlox. Friends, we have a special opportunity. The magician from Earth has agreed to visit us aboard the Humdinger and perform. Excited gasps rippled through the hall. Mip turned to Clax, eyes shining. We have to go see him again. That evening, the dining hall was converted into a makeshift performance space. The anticipation was palpable as the illusionist, Alazar, swept onto the stage in a glittering cape. Welcome back, travelers. Let's make some more magic. He dazzled the audience again with stunning sleight of hand, making objects appear and disappear with flair. Rabbits popped out of hats. Birds emerged from scarves. Coins vanished and reappeared. Each illusion brought gasps of amazement from the rapt spectators. Mip drank it all in, enraptured anew. He glanced periodically at Clax and was delighted to see the old scholar watching intently, a twinkle in his eyes. The show reached its crescendo when Alazar asked for a volunteer. Without hesitation, Mip's hand shot up. Me again, me, he cried, bounding on stage eagerly. Alazar smiled. Well, hello, my spirited friend. Let's really astound them this time. At the magician's direction, Mip stepped onto a small raised platform. Alazar whisked a sheet over it, covering Mip completely. He waved his hands and spoke magic words. Then he whisked away the sheet to reveal nothing. Mip had disappeared completely. The audience gasped and broke into thunderous applause. Mip emerged triumphantly from backstage and took a deep bow. As he returned to his seat, he saw Clax watching him with an indulgent smile. You know, the old scholar leaned in and whispered, true magic doesn't need smoke or mirrors. It's right there in your spirit. Mip beamed. That was all the magic he needed. As the Humdinger continued its journey, the crew and passengers were still buzzing about the magician's visit. Mip in particular was over the moon, eager to discuss Alazar's astounding talents. He must have some kind of teleportation device, right? Mip asked Clax as they had lunch one day. I mean, actual magic can't be the explanation, can it? Clax smiled wryly. Does it matter? You don't need to understand everything scientifically. Some things are meant to simply fill you with awe. Mip nodded thoughtfully, surprised by Clax's willingness to embrace the inexplicable. Over the next few days, Wild rumors and theories about Alazar's abilities continued spreading like wildfire. Mip added his own embellished details whenever he recounted the show to rapt listeners. Then he levitated me 10 feet in the air, while breathing fire, and made the whole audience disappear. Mip knew he was exaggerating, but it didn't matter. The story kept growing more fantastical with each telling. The magic felt realer than ever in his imagination. One day, Mip stumbled onto an interesting scene in the observation lounge. Clax and Captain Zarlox were deep in discussion by the vista windows. Mip sneaked closer to eavesdrop. "It was all staged, smoke and mirrors," Clax muttered in his familiar gravelly tone. "Nothing supernatural at work." "Perhaps," Zarlox answered gently. "But did you see how much joy it brought everyone? How it made them feel?" Clax paused, gazing thoughtfully at the passing stars. "I must admit, there was a certain skill and artistry to it," he replied at last. "And that Mip, so full of delight and wonder—" Clax trailed off, his expression uncharacteristically warm. Mip beamed proudly from his hiding place. Later, as Mip recounted the magic show yet again in the dining hall, he noticed Clax lingering nearby, listening with a hint of a smile. As Mip described the illusions growing ever more fanciful and impossible, Clax's smile widened. He gave Mip a subtle nod, a tacit permission to keep embellishing, dreaming, and imagining without limits. After Mip finished his tale to rapturous applause, Clax approached him. "Well done," he said simply. "Now, I may have a magic trick of my own to show you." Mip's eyes went wide with surprise and delight as Clax led him back to his quarters. The old alien dimmed the lights and produced a small glowing orb from his sleeve. He rolled it slowly across his knobby hands, making it seem to vanish and reappear from thin air. It was a simple sleight of hand, but Mip gasped and laughed with sincere amazement. Teach me," he begged eagerly. And so Clax patiently walked him through the trick's secrets. But for Mip, the magic was real. The true wonder didn't lie in the method, but in the way it made him feel, alive with possibility, awe, and joy. This, he realized, was the greatest gift the magician had given them all. As the humdinger sailed onward, its crew and passengers now wore a renewed sense of childlike marvel, ready to embrace the strange enchantments waiting beyond the next horizon. For Mip and Clax, their voyage together had sparked an even greater magic, the first sparkles of a lifelong friendship. The Grand Hall of the Intergalactic Council headquarters buzzed with activity. Representatives from over 200 alien planets were gathered for this quarter's meeting, one of the most anticipated in recent history. Today was the day several alien experts would present their findings on the mysterious planet Earth. For centuries, this distant world in the Milky Way galaxy had fascinated the intergalactic community. Now finally, they had managed to send reconnaissance missions to study it directly. At the front of the Great Hall stood the Council's Wise Ones, 11 ancient beings who presided over the meetings. Though from different worlds, the revered Wise Ones commanded great respect for their wisdom and impartiality. "Let us begin," Zathar intoned telepathically, his body nothing but a floating robe and wisps of psychic energy. "We have important matters to discuss." The hall quieted as the first presenter slithered up to the central podium, Zorplax of Glurp. Zorplax came from a warm, humid planet covered in fetid swamps and bogs. His serpentine green body oozed slime as he moved, leaving a glistening trail along the pristine white floor. "Esteemed Council," Zorplax gurgled, his jowls quivering, "I have ventured to planet Earth and studied one of its most abundant environments, the subtropical wetlands." With a flip of a switch, Zorplax displayed a detailed hologram showing images of his descent through Earth's atmosphere and landing in a muddy Florida Everglades region. Mosquitoes buzzed through the damp, hazy air, and cypress trees with dangling Spanish moss lined the waterway. The scene looked remarkably similar to Zorplax's home. "As you can see, I felt right at home among the boggy swamplands of Earth," Zorplax continued. "The humidity, the pungent aromas, the crawling insects, it reminded me much of my beloved planet Glurp." Zorplax then described his encounters with alligators, snapping turtles, water moccasins, and other wetland creatures. He belched up a live fish from his planet to further emphasize Earth's similarities. "Therefore, I confidently conclude that planet Earth is a fetid, festering swamp world, akin to Glurp. I found abundant muck and mosquitoes everywhere I slithered across its soggy terrain." Satisfied with his irrefutable evidence, Zorplax oozed back to his seat, leaving a fresh trail of goo across the once pristine floor. Zorplax's assessment of Earth as a fetid swamp planet rattled the Intergalactic Council, but before they could fully process this disappointing reveal, the next presenter approached the podium. It was Klaxor, a furry quadruped being from Frigidus, a planet covered in icy tundras and glacial mountain ranges. Klaxor's people were adapted to the extreme cold, with their thick coats and layers of blubber. Klaxor took her place and shook loose bits of packed snow from her fur. "Greetings, Council members," she began. "I have also explored planet Earth, specifically the frigid polar region known as Antarctica." With a tap on the console, Klaxor displayed a hologram of her descent through swirling snows onto the icy continent. Massive glaciers and drifting snow blanketed the land as far as the eye could see. The video showed Klaxor hunkering down against bitter winds, her fur coat providing only minimal protection against the piercing cold. "As you can witness, the climate was dangerously freezing. I nearly lost my tail to frostbite out there," Klaxor said. She then described her trek across cracking glacial ice, dodging hidden crevasses. The landscape was devoid of greenery, populated only by a few hardy creatures like seals, penguins, and seafaring birds. In conclusion, Zorplax is clearly mistaken. Earth is no swamp planet, but rather a world of perpetual winter, much like my beloved Frigidus, Klaxor stated firmly. The planet is dominated by massive ice sheets, frozen oceans, and an unforgiving sub-zero climate. Perhaps small swampy regions exist, but the majority of Earth is an Arctic wasteland too cold for most life forms. Klaxor's account puzzled the Council even further. Her polar expedition painted a starkly different picture of Earth. But how could both depictions be true? Murmurs of disbelief and confusion rippled through the Great Hall. Zorplax oozed back up to the podium, incensed by Klaxor's words. "With all due respect, dear Klaxor, perhaps your limited exploration of one minor region caused you to extrapolate too broadly," he posited. And perhaps you let your narrow experience in a swamp color your entire perspective of the planet," Klaxor fired back. icicles forming on her fur with rising anger. The two experts glared at each other, neither willing to concede their position. The council watched anxiously, hoping the next presenters would finally provide definitive clarity on planet Earth's environment. Little did they know, reaching consensus on Earth's nature would prove far more complex than any imagined. The bitter argument between Zorplax and Klaxor left the council utterly baffled about planet Earth. Just as tensions threatened to boil over, Zerona glided up to speak. Zerona came from the desert world of Iridia, where water was scarce and temperatures scorched by day. Her kind had evolved to thrive in dry, barren environments. "Please listen. I come with a different account of Earth," Zerona rasped, her scaly skin parched from the long journey. Murmurs rippled through the hall as all eyes turned to her. "I landed in a vast sandy region humans call the Sahara. It spans much of Earth's northern continent of Africa," Zerona explained. Her hologram displayed sweeping dunes and weather-carved buttes baking under the relentless sun. Bones of long-dead creatures littered the endless wasteland. Zerona described trudging through fine sands whipped into stinging clouds by hot winds. Searing daytime heat contrasted with frigid nights. Water was virtually non-existent in this parched environment. "As a creature of the deserts, I felt right at home in this dry, barren place," Zerona said. She displayed samples of desiccated plants and reptiles uniquely adapted to the harsh conditions. "Make no mistake, Earth is very much a desert planet, much like my own world of Iridia." Zerona's stunning claim brought immediate objections from Zorplax and Klaxor. "Perhaps small sandy patches exist, but clearly Earth is primarily a land of ice and snow," Klaxor asserted. "You are both still misguided. Earth is largely composed of hot, steamy swamplands," Zorplax countered. Zerona refused to back down. "I explored a desert larger than many planets. How can you dismiss Earth as anything other than a desert world?" she argued. A fierce three-way debate erupted as the council looked on in dismay. Each presenter was convinced their unique experiences defined Earth conclusively, but with such wildly differing accounts, what were the council to believe? Was Earth a bizarre patchwork of totally separate environments somehow coexisting? That seemed impossible. As the presenters quarreled loudly, bones from Zerona's samples suddenly knitted together and sprang to life. The reptilian skeleton lunged at Zorplax, attempting to bite him with its bony jaws. The council gasped collectively. Their information-gathering mission had taken an unfortunate turn, dissenting into conflict rather than reaching consensus. Hopefully, the remaining presenters could help reconcile these contradictory positions without further chaos ensuing. The Intergalactic Council chamber descended into chaos as Zerona's skeletal sample attacked Zorplax. Guards rushed to restrain the snarling creature, while concerned murmurs echoed through the hall. Just as quickly, the skeleton collapsed back into a lifeless pile of bones. Its strange animation ceased. Zerona sheepishly withdrew the errant sample, apologizing for the disturbance. The council's wise ones telepathically called for order. "We seem no closer to understanding planet Earth," the robe-like Zathar intoned. "Let us hear the next presentation in hopes of gaining clarity." The floor trembled as the rock-like Granger approached the podium, shedding small pebbles with each heavy step. Hailing from the planet Mineralia, Granger's people were living embodiments of stone and ore. "Wise ones, esteemed council, lend me your ears," Granger rumbled, his gravelly voice echoing through the hall. "I come to you with the truth of planet Earth." Murmurs rippled through the crowd as Granger displayed his hologram. It revealed his descent onto a towering summit deep in Earth's Himalaya mountain range. Snow-capped peaks stretched as far as the eye could see. "Here lay rock and stone in every direction," Granger boasted, his fists cracking open geodes and crystals collected from the mountainside. "Earth is clearly a planet of rich mineral composition, abundant geology, and active tectonics, much like my native Mineralia." Granger went on to describe Earth's soaring cliffs, plunging ravines, and sloping ridges. He spoke of the planet's seismically volatile crust, punctuated by belching volcanoes and crumbling fault lines. So you see, learned Council, Earth is fundamentally a world of stone and minerals, Granger concluded. All else are merely superficial biological layers masking its true lithic nature. At this, Zorplax, Klaxer, and Zerona all objected loudly. Stone peaks amid endless ice, Klaxer cried. Sandy dunes across barren wastes, rasped Zerona. Fetid swamplands swallowing your precious hills, Zorplax accused. The wise ones called for silence before the situation devolved once more. Granger shook the hall with a concussive stomp. You all lack the proper perspective. If you would just... Suddenly, Granger froze in place, his stony features going blank. The council watched tensely as cracks appeared along his surface, signaling impending upheaval. Granger stood motionless as fractures split across his rocky exterior. The Intergalactic Council waited anxiously, unsure what was happening to the stony being. Finally, Granger shook loose the last fragments and turned to the council. My apologies. I did not intend to alarm you. The rigors of space travel caused my outer layers to deteriorate. I molted my damaged surface to reveal fresh stone underneath. Relieved that Granger was unharmed, the council regained composure. Just then, a melodic voice echoed through the hall. Wise ones, if I may, I believe I can help reconcile these quarreling perspectives. All eyes turned to Flora, a willowy being with bark-like skin and a mane of leafy tendrils. Hailing from the vibrant jungle planet of Viridae, Flora's people communed with the botanical. By all means, please share your wisdom, Zathar said. The other presenters looked on warily. Esteemed council, I traveled to a wondrous region on Earth called the Amazon rainforest. Flora spoke gently. Her hologram displayed an aerial panorama of the sprawling jungle. A mosaic of greens blanketed the landscape as far as the eye could see. Here exists more plant diversity than anywhere I've encountered, Flora continued. She described tropical fauna, soaring canopy trees, entangled vines, flowering orchids, mushrooms, ferns, and more. Cascading waterfalls fed snaking rivers teeming with aquatic life. You see, Earth contains all of the landscapes described by my colleagues, from icy peaks to barren dunes. Flora gestured conciliatorily to the others. But it is the planet's breathtaking diversity that makes it truly unique. Flora went on to explain Earth's dynamic climate patterns, tectonic movements, and axial tilt that created its mosaic of biomes, all interconnected in balance. Other worlds may exhibit singular extremes, but none matched Earth's blended complexity. We must see beyond our individual perspectives, Flora implored. Only then may we grasp Earth's full grandeur. The other presenters looked thoughtful as Flora's words resonated. Perhaps in their narrow focus, they had each grasped but a facet of Earth's diversity. Flora speaks wisdom, Zathar proclaimed. Let us explore Earth anew, seeking not to impose our limited views, but to understand and nurture its splendid complexity. The council broke into applause, the presenters rushing to congratulate Flora. Their differences fell away as they now saw their experiences as pieces of Earth's grand mosaic. Come, we have much to learn on this marvelous planet, cried Grangor. Arm in arm, the former rivals headed eagerly back toward distant Earth, newfound comrades in exploration. Zorplex gazed out the window of his spaceship as it entered Earth's atmosphere. The young Argonian was fascinated by this strange new planet. As they descended towards a large city, Zorplex spotted something odd. Many of the humans on the streets below were riding on two-wheeled vehicles, pedaling them along with their legs. Captain, what are those contraptions the humans are using to transport themselves? Zorplex asked. The captain chuckled. Those are called bicycles. They are very common on this planet. Zorplex was amazed. But how do they stay balanced on only two wheels? It takes practice, but humans learn at a young age, the captain explained. Zorplex stared in wonder at the bicycling humans, enthralled by this ingenious invention. After landing, Zorplex eagerly explored the city, examining all the fascinating human technology. But he couldn't stop thinking about those bicycles. He spotted a human child effortlessly riding one down the sidewalk. Zorplex ran up to get a closer look. "Greetings, young human. How are you controlling this amazing device?" The child giggled. "It's just a bike. You pedal to make the wheels spin." She demonstrated by pedaling faster, then showed how she steered the handlebars back and forth. "Incredible!" Zorplex exclaimed. "On my planet, we have nothing like this. Tell me, how did you learn to ride?" "My dad taught me when I was little," the girl explained. "It took some practice, but once you get your balance, it's easy." Zorplex was determined to master bicycle riding himself. Zorplex went to a bicycle rental shop and awkwardly clambered onto a bike. After wobbling around the parking lot, he glumly returned it. "I will never get the hang of this," he sighed. Just then, a friendly human named Jack approached him. "Hey there, saw you struggling with that bike. Don't worry, riding just takes time and patience. I'd be happy to teach you." Zorplex's eyes lit up. "You would do that for me?" "Of course," Jack said. "Let's start with the basics." Over the next few weeks, Jack worked tirelessly with Zorplex, holding the bike steady as the Argonian practiced balancing, showing him how to pedal and steer. Zorplex fell hundreds of times, but with Jack's encouragement, he kept trying. After months of practice, the big day arrived. Jack brought Zorplex to the park. "All right, today's the day you ride on your own," Jack said. "You've got this!" Zorplex took a deep breath and pushed off, wobbling at first but soon stabilizing. He started pedaling faster, feeling the wind on his face. For the first time, he was really riding. Zorplex whooped with joy as he cruised around the park's paths. Other humans smiled and waved as he zipped by. When he finally came to a stop, Jack gave him a high five. "I did it!" Zorplex exclaimed. "This is amazing. Thank you for everything, my friend." "You did all the hard work," Jack replied. "Now you can bike anywhere you want to go." When Zorplex returned to his home planet, he brought back more than just memories from Earth. He started a company producing bicycles and opened riding schools across Argonia. Within a few years, bicycles became ubiquitous in Argonian cities. Zorplex's favorite part was teaching young Argonians how to ride, remembering his own delight when he had finally mastered biking. Now, instead of solely relying on public transportation, Argonians could independently explore their world on two wheels. All thanks to one alien who discovered bikes on a fateful trip to Earth and became determined to share that joy with his own people.